inequality stuff that he's been trying to fight, that fight isn't working so well because it's putting you in the poorhouse. But then he'll probably reply to you and saying, well, that's exactly why we need to tax the rich, because we need to put everybody in the poorhouse, not just the middle class. Believe me, that he will not say it in those words, but that's exactly their plan. Everybody needs to be in the poorhouse so the government can take care of everybody. But the problem is that if you eliminate the rich, if you eliminate the wealthy, if you eliminate the middle class, who's going to pay all the taxes to pay for everybody? It's got to come from somewhere. So there's a limited amount of, there's a finite amount of money that goes around. Believe it or not, and value and wealth is unlimited, but when you're actually talking on a taxable basis, there is a finite amount. And if you take too much away from certain groups of people, well, they're not going to have the money anymore. And therefore, your tax source is going to dry up. But your payments are not. So either you're going to have to raise taxes on those who are currently still being able to pay taxes, and they're soon not going to be able to, or you're going to have to cut the so-called benefits. And we already see what happens in when you do that. Greece happens, and all hell breaks loose. And we've seen that this country can have all hell break loose. Baltimore, anyone? L.A. L.A. riots, that type of. Now you multiply that by multiple cities, and you can see that there's a real potential here. Real potential for problems, definite problems, and we don't want problems. You know what? I would. My goal is to someday not have anything to talk about, because everything is right as rain. Can you imagine if there's a time when there's nothing to talk about because everything is right as rain? I would like that. That would be so very cool, if you will. But we're not going to get there because unless we start really voting out all these leftists. Speaking of leftists, Boy Scouts of America. Now, I was a Boy Scout, and I don't know. Well, I do know what's happening to the Boy Scouts. It's they're being sued and they're being talked about and lambasted from all corners of society right now. And they're still trying to remain relevant. But capitulating to people, to these special interest groups, is not going to make the Boy Scouts more relevant. It's just not. But Boy Scouts of America, and this is a WashingtonTimes.com story. I picked this up from the Washington Times. Boy Scouts of America bans water gun fights because pointing a firearm at somebody is not kind. Yeah, I kid you not. Pointing a water gun at somebody is not kind. Now, forget the fact that everybody wants to participate in a water fight. And, in water fights, people use water guns, they use hoses, and a hose often looks like, with the nozzle on it often looks like a gun. They use buckets and balloons. Well, I guess you're really not going to, because a balloon is like a grenade, I guess, so you're probably not going to be able to do that. But but they're just saying water gun fight. So I guess a hose and a bucket and balloons will be fine. But balloons they pollute because the balloon bursts and it's on the ground, and then everybody gets to go walk around and try to find and pick up the balloon pieces, and they don't always get all those. And the birds will eat the balloons, and then they'll die because they ate the balloon pieces because they think it's candy or something. But yeah, the Boy Scouts and then the Boy Scouts will begin to ban everything else as well. But the reason is because, one of the directors of the Boy Scouts of America said, a scout once said to me, I thought a scout was supposed to be kind. Well, how is pointing a gun at somebody being kind? And he said, well, okay, it's not. So let's forget the fact that the Boy Scouts is kind of built off of a semi-military type of program, Christian military type of program. When it was first started, the Scout is always prepared. And prepared, they do camping, and they do kind of quasi-military stuff. Have uniforms and stuff, and they march and they stand at attention and things like, and they do things with the flag that's proper. But no, pointing a gun is not kind. It's not, the Scout is trustworthy and kind. And the Scout doesn't do things that are not kind. And pointing a gun at somebody, even though it's a water gun that everybody likes to use and have fun with, because it's just really, cooling you off on a very hot summer day, and it's just a lot of fun. But no, it's not kind. Not kind. So you're not going to be able to, have water gun fights in the Boy Scouts anymore. I'm not making this up, folks. This is from WashingtonTimes.com. And I know there are people out there probably thinking, oh, he's making this up. And I got to tell you, I'm not making it up. I almost thought it was a joke. I did. I thought it was a joke story. It was like an ad or something, which is why I went in as it came across my feed. I'm like, yeah, no. This is not for real. It's a joke. But yeah, it's for real. Boy Scouts of America is going to ban water gun fights. Because pointing a water gun at somebody is not kind. Well, I would beg to differ, because if it's a hot day and you're not at a pool or a beach, it might be very kind to douse somebody with cooling water. Look, I remember they have these, water cannons now, the playthings, not just a water pistol anymore. We have water rifles and we have water bazookas, basically. You go to Toys R Us or some toy store, and you got a plethora of water gun type devices to choose from little small spy types that. But the problem with those is they always leak. So it's not like you can hide a water gun in your pocket, but you can. They do have water guns that are very good and they don't leak. There is something that some of you might remember this, and I guess this is something that they're probably Boy Scouts won't allow either. But if you remember, there was an 80s movie. And it was called The Assassination Game. Now, The Assassination Game, the movie, was based on an actual game played on college campuses across the country, across the world, really. And it was called Killer. Now, it was actually a real game, and it was kind of like a spy game. And you actually, back then, there was a central agency, if you will, a person running the game. And you were a spy. You were an assassin. And you were playing against other assassins. And the wonderful part is that you most likely didn't know who the other assassins were. So everything was kept, hush hush, secret. And what happened was that you'd go at a certain time and you'd get your assignment. Now your assignment, had a picture of the person that you were supposed to hit. Now, the problem is that, well, it wasn't a problem, but the fun is that while you were looking for that one person to hit and eliminate, somebody had the assignment to eliminate you. So it was kind of a cat and mouse type of thing. And one of the ways that you could eliminate somebody was shooting them with a water gun. You could only use non-lethal things, and things that didn't hurt. So you couldn't use like paint guns back then. Paint guns like then off limits. BB guns off limits. Obviously, real guns off limits. But you could use things like Nerf guns and water pistols and water balloons. You could drop a water balloon in somebody. Now on my campus, when I was in college, they had these guns, water pistols, that were superb. They were not cheap back then. But the thing is that they didn't leak. So you could fill them up and stick them in your pocket or something, and they wouldn't leak. So when you saw your assignment on the college square, you could quickly shoot them. Now, the whole point is that there are different varying rules for different campuses. Now, on my campus, the rule is that you had to do your best to not be seen. In other words, you couldn't be in the middle of, the college quad, if you will. You couldn't be in the quad with, 500 students around and then blatantly, water blow away your target, because now you've been compromised. So you'd be out. So you had to do it as secretive as possible. And one of the ways you do it is, you could actually walk up to the person, as you're walking by and squirt them. And then it's a kill. So you'd get their card of the person that they're supposed to assassinate, and you take it back to Central Command, and he would mark the person off that you eliminated. And then your new target was that person, that person's target. And it came down, to who the last two assassin spies were. And everybody's everybody who's participating in the game, they're all, constantly on camp looking, who is it? Who are the last two? And how are they going to get each other? Because now when you're the last two, now you both have each other's cards. So you know who each other is. So now it gets really fun. So it's really spy versus spy type of thing. And it was really kind of interesting. But I'm telling that kind of stuff awfully, because that's not nice, right? Even though everybody's participating and having a good time and having fun, it's just a bunch of fun. I know we are probably training would-be spies and assassins on college campuses all over the country by playing this game. And I remember when we wanted to bring it to my college campus. Well, you had to have an advisor, and of course, this college advisor was a professor. His first thing was, well, this in the movie, people actually got killed. So what are you going to do to stop that? And we're like, Professor, that's a movie. Nobody's concerned about somebody actually using a real gun. And besides, but this is the type of liberal mentality that we had even back then. I mean, it's nuts. Liberals don't want you to have fun. And they will press and press and press until they get even the most conservative of groups and believers into not having any fun. Because they're so miserable. Liberals are typically miserable people. When was the last time you actually saw Bernie Sanders be happy and smile about something? Yeah, we see Clinton, Hillary Clinton cackling every once in a while. But it's usually a nervous cackle because she's trying to laugh off somebody's question of something that if she doesn't answer properly or the right way, or if she answers at all, is going to put her in a lot of hot water. But I mean, honestly, you don't get liberals that actually walk around and look happy. I mean, they act miserable and angry all the time. You should probably just start calling them angry young liberals and angry old liberals, because they don't want anybody to have any fun. It's not a good thing to want to, cool somebody off with a water gun. No. Even though President Obama participates in such a thing at Camp David with his kids. No, you won't be able to do it anymore. Sorry, Mr. President. You liberals have spoken. No more fun.